Like there's a nice technique to kind of help settle the beginning a little bit more quickly, where you breathe in through your nose, you take a long, deep, full inhale, really let the mind kind of just watch and kind of sink into the breath. And then on the exhale, you blow out through your mouth as if you're blowing through a long, fine straw. So in through the nose, full. And when you take the inhale, after you take the full inhale, maybe pause for a moment and then exhale through the mouth like you're going through a straw. You can do that a few times if you like, before returning to a natural breath. And sometimes before moving attention to the breath, it can be helpful just to kind of check in with the body first and make your mindfulness just noticing what's going on with your body, feeling your seat, releasing any tension or holding you might notice. You kind of scan through the body. It's kind of having a quiet awareness of the body. It's like we're listening, or just observing. Allowing that to relax the mind and body. Maybe like bringing your awareness to the breath. And especially for a short meditation, we can really change or check our mental approach. That we're not approaching it as like we're doing something, really allowing it just to be a time to be, simply be. Not really a goal, not a goal-oriented mind, just giving ourselves the space and permission just to be. And the breath can almost become kind of fresh and almost enjoyable. It's something, the natural movement, present moment in ourselves. Maybe I feel like we can bring a quality of intention into our discussion this afternoon. Recognizing there's so much suffering and insecurity, aggression, fear, violence going on in the world right now. And recognizing us coming together is a small act of peace. We're trying to cultivate or discover our own basic goodness, our own capacity for peace. So yeah, thank you. Really beautiful art behind Barbara. Amazing. Yeah, I mean, since it's just the three of us, I'm totally happy just to kind of jump in and the discussion. If there's anything kind of pertinent or alive that you particularly want to kind of talk about or discuss. Questions, things that you like to kind of explore and really kind of open it up.
I have a question, Justin, and it's about when we say the long life prayers, and we say the prayer for Lama Zopa Rinpoche. It talks about Manjunath and his victorious doctrine, and I never knew what that meant, and I've been trying to find information on it, and really the only thing I can find is that Manjunath was a Hindu deity, and I couldn't find anything on his victorious doctrine, and I don't know how that fit into the long life prayer for Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So it's kind of off topic, but it's just something I've been thinking about and haven't been able to find any information on my own on.
Right on. Yeah,
So,
maybe nobody else checked, and we didn't realize we were exclaiming a Hindu Hindu prayer. No, yeah. So so Manjunath's another name for Manjushri. It's another kind of nickname, or say, for Manjushri. And so I believe in Lama Tsongkhapa had a really kind of very deep, intimate connection with Manjushri. There's stories that he had direct visions, and Manjushri, the deity Manjushri, actually helped Tsongkhapa kind of clarify his understanding of emptiness. And in Tsongkhapa's life, you can see in his early written books, like his understanding of emptiness kind of shifted, and then like later, kind of one of his later texts in his life, after that encounter he had, that kind of experience he had with the kind of vision of the wisdom Buddha, that he like, it's like he really refined and found like a view that he felt like was the clearest. And yeah, and Manjushri kind of had kind of significant, kind of showed up in significant moments at different times. So Tibetans often kind of refer to Tsongkhapa as the emanation of Manjushri himself. So in his life story, is, I believe he had this kind of vision and kind of visionary kind of relationship with Manjushri, and yeah. So Tibetans kind of hold him as an emanation of Manjushri, especially within this lineage. So I'm pretty sure that it's referring to Tsongkhapa's lineage of teachings. Yeah, so the doctrine of Lama Tsongkhapa, I believe that's what it's poetically kind of trying to say.
thank you. And Manjushri is the Buddha with the sword. Is that correct? Cutting through ignorance. Do I have that right?
Yeah. So he's the kind of emanation or aspect of wisdom, kind of embodiment of wisdom. And it's interesting, the deity kind of has kind of some qualities of like around expression. So masters in the past who've had a really close relationship with Manjushri as their deity, also are brilliant writers, brilliant communicators. It's a kind of like wisdom communication, like communication of wisdom is kind of the energy of Manjushri. So
Thank you.
yeah, there's a beautiful image of Manjushri, Chenrezig, and Vajrapani. So the Buddha of compassion, Buddha of wisdom, and Buddha of power or effectiveness. And they're kind of like seen as the three kind of emanations of the three main qualities of Buddha nature. So our compassion, wisdom, and ability to actually make impact in the world. Yeah, and Lama Yeshe would say, like, if you're feeling like you need to recharge your compassion, maybe do a weekend Chenrezig retreat, or if you need to kind of clarify your mind, kind of wake up your kind of wisdom faculties, like a Manjushri retreat, or you're feeling disempowered and need kind of a boost of resource and feeling like you need, trying to bring in more effectiveness in your life. If you're feeling like your life management's energy isn't going so well, like Vajrapani. It's quite amazing, the practices, it's not, they're kind of esoteric in form and kind of language and in history, but there's quite, like Lama Yeshe would say, they're more, it's very scientific kind of practice. Like the deities, like the colors of the deities and the shapes of the deity and the mantra of the deity, they're it's almost like a holistic healing system. The colors actually have effect on our psyche and our nervous system in different ways. So green, if you're meditating on this green, radiant green, Tara is radiant light, and you're doing a retreat is green, green, green all weekend. So it's a green light flowing through your body and radiating, pulsing through you, and the mantra and the vibration and everything, and Tara's blessing you and coming into you. It kind of evokes or kind of wakes up this kind of aspect or quality in us that is different if you do like Chenrezig. The white energy has this kind of pacifying and spaciousness, which is interesting with like Chenrezig. He's kind of kind of this embodiment of non-judgmental, compassionate presence, which they all are, but that particular is kind of specialty, and that kind of spacious white energy. There's this kind of non-judgmental holding that can kind of take place and through the transformation process of the practice. That's not just random. Like it's very, very subtle, sophisticated kind of meditational kind of tools. Or I mean, they're not, the deities aren't tools. That's terrible. But just kind of I don't want to say technology, but yeah, healing kind of methodologies. It's pretty powerful.
I have a question on, as I do my meditation on my mind, all of a sudden you start noticing your thoughts and things pop up during the day, and some ideas pop up that you never knew you had within you. And some of them generate negative karma. And it's kind of disconcerting that as I investigate my mind, I'm generating all this negative karma pops up, negative thoughts.
Mm.
And how do I stop them from actually generating negative karma?
Mm.
Is it enough just to say, no, to notice that it's negative and say, that's not really, I just don't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
I have this fear of generating all this cloud of negative karma just by investigating my own mind.
Mm. Brilliant question. Yeah. So the karma is what happens now. So the negativity that comes out. I don't know if you ever gotten a massage before, but my wife's a massage therapist, so it's kind of always in my atmosphere. But if you get like a deep tissue massage, sometimes it almost feels like you're sick, like it's bringing out toxins and just kind of this release. It's like stuff that's coming out, and that can be absolutely the case with meditation practice. So we're kind of opening the hatch, and this stuff comes up. So our response is kind of what's so the fact that a thought comes up isn't the problem, actually. Even if it's a great thought, it's a beautiful, sophisticated thought, or aggressive, dark, aggressive thought or whatever. It's the response to it that creates karma. So
Okay.
karma is kind of reaction. Karma really just means intentional act, which can be like a reaction. So a thought comes up. If we're able to see the thought and let it go, then we've kind of released. It's almost like we're just like releasing it. So it's like it's coming up and releasing. If we react to it, then that's a new react. That's kind of a new imprint, kind of process or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more of kind of letting, depending on what meditation practice we're doing. But if we're just trying to do like settling practice, we're letting shamatha. Everything's actually okay, like fine. In a way, it's an opportunity just to bring awareness. Another opportunity to allow, if there's something difficult that comes up and we're actually able to hold it in our awareness and be present to it and not judge it and not kind of like get taken off by it.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually we're developing wisdom. Like we're actually waking up.
Okay.
So if we see like karma is almost, at least in the kind of the negative function, it's like impulsive kind of impulsive reaction where we're not really aware of what we're doing. So if I lash out at somebody, there's an initial thought that I kind of latch onto that then kind of amplifies, I get really focused in, it creates this kind of pressure. And a lot of that's just kind of unconscious kind of patterning, just like this response system I learned or whatever. So no matter what's actually coming up in our mind, if we're able to be with it with awareness and maybe a sense of compassion or just non-judgment and just allow it to move through. That's actually starting to move us towards reality. And so it's kind of like
so it's the non-interaction, non-judgmental, and if there any reaction at all, it's just one of compassion, essentially.
Ideally, easy. It's probably challenging, but So it's starting to change our course, our path. Like we're creating a new wisdom habit of kind of wakefulness, rather than the reactive pattern. So, in the Tibetan tradition, it's common to see that stuff coming up is almost like a purifying. You're almost like it's almost like detoxing in a way. Like we're actually getting to see our mind. They say when we first start our meditation practice, it feels like it's making us worse. But what it's actually doing is just starting to slow us down a bit. And we're starting to see our mind more clearly and seeing what's kind of been there. And the slower, maybe that also might bring up kind of stuff that's hadn't had a chance to get out because of busyness of our life or just the patterning of our life.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that's kind of the practice, like one Tibetan Lama will say, the practice is actually quite simple and easy. It's just our karma that it's our stuff that makes it difficult. Like just breathe, just relax, just be aware. It's like you can actually get more simple than that. But the reason why it's not simple is because doing that, we're actually starting to come into reality. So we actually have to see all the kind of the patterning that we have to work through. Yeah. Yeah. And like within the shamatha meditation or tradition, or the Mahamudra tradition, it's you probably heard the analogy like clouds in the sky,
Yeah.
or fish in the water, like the fish in the ocean. Actually, you have them behind your it's a good analogy. Yeah, you see them as just like fish moving through the water, but it doesn't actually affect the water itself. It doesn't affect the ocean. So in a way, they're kind of, again, opportunities for us to kind of change the course.
Mm-hmm.
And then that change in course is starting to break the karmic pattern itself, actually. It's almost like we learn, like, oh, that thought came up and moved through, and that was it. Like, I didn't kill me. I didn't actually have to kind of take it on as a whole thing. It just, where my I have a feeling of anxiety, and I'm able to kind of drop the storyline so I can kind of become more present to it. And then I notice, oh, it's just energy in the body, and it kind of just moves through and kind of dissolves back into awareness. I'm like, oh, and here I am. Just another moment.
Yeah, I sort of went through a process where when it first started happening, I fought it bitterly, starting with saying, that's not me. I'm not like that.
Yeah.
And then trying to suppress it, trying to push it away. And then finally I said, okay, it's coming from my mind. It's me. Just let it go.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen. Don't give any weight to it. Don't. Just let it go.
Yeah. In a way, it isn't you, actually. In the sense that it's just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a thought that rises in awareness and dissolves back into awareness, just like any thought, like actually a really positive thought, just a thought that rises in awareness and dissolves back. It's almost like a shape in the water. Like a wave is just the water, but it's just the shape of the water. The wave has its kind of course and then goes right back. And it looked like it, the way we conceptualize and talk about it, it becomes like a noun, it becomes a thing, a wave. It's a wave or whatever. But actually it's just water. And all of it's just water. Just kind of speaking to, there's this kind of profound quality of our being that points to the sameness of that place where thoughts arise. There's more kind of a deeper kind of a sense of self that's not the content of the mind itself. Yeah. So that's kind of the beauty of it, is that they're not just saying let it go just because just let it go. Actually, it's pointing to this kind of deeper quality of our awareness itself. That even negative thoughts held within this kind of space, kind of awareness of, actually it's just awareness itself. It's just kind of energy that has no inherent nature to it. And it's easier to kind of explore that reality when we're by ourselves in a meditation if we're out and about and doing stuff, like some of those thoughts can actually lead us to say something harsh to someone. It can be volatile or actually can create harm, but in the kind of safety and space of our meditation practice, we actually can open up and experiment and see why they say you can just relax and let it come through, let it move through, let it dissolve. What is that we're pointing to? Because there's a nice terminology in this one psychology tradition. It's very close to Buddhism, actually. But they have this concept of clean pain and dirty pain. I don't know if I mentioned this in the last course part of it. So clean pain would be the feeling of anger. The dirty pain is the reaction to the anger. So the suppression or the frustration or whatever, this kind of trying to manipulate it or suppress it or control it in a way, or getting upset that it's happening. So that we call that dirty pain because that creates a kind of cycle of suffering. But if the anger is there and there's like somewhat of like almost like an acceptance or just allowance or just like, oh wow, I'm feeling kind of frustrated right now. Interesting. I'm just observing that, like, how does it feel? Like, oh, it's kind of, I'm tightening up in my chest or I'm starting to get sweaty. Like, oh, interesting. Oh, there's that thought process. Maybe I can try to let go of the thought just kind of pull back a little bit. And then anger kind of moves through. There's a lot of freedom actually in that experience. And there's not aggression. So even though we might be feeling the anger might be present for us, if we're holding it in our awareness with this non-reactivity, a sense of curiosity or acceptance, maybe some openness to allow it to, like, okay, it's here in me. It's not permanent. It'll pass at some point.
Which is why patience would be so important. Giving yourself the space to allow it to pass by being patient with it.
Yeah.
Rather than, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And patience is a really powerful virtue. And Lama Zopa would say, like, we need people who irritate us. Like, I can't be patient with somebody being kind to me. Or maybe I don't like compliments, actually. So I sometimes I'm afraid I just like blah, blah, blah. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't know if that's patience or just discomfort. But we need people. We can only develop that kind of practice of patience if we have that kind of irritant, somebody who stirs it up for us, or even ourselves, if there's irritation ourselves. Like you said, yeah, we can practice patience with it. Like, I don't need to, it's like, oh, I'm a Buddhist, I shouldn't be feeling this way. Like, I want to get over that. I want to be a loving, peaceful person, whatever. Like I pointed out, we can just be patient with ourselves and be patient with the emotion itself. Like, oh, here you are again. Like, interesting. Okay, you can be here for a while, but eventually, when you go, take care. Kind of feeling. Can I get you some tea before you move on in your journey? Yeah. So just like how, like, somebody external is the kind of, Lama Zopa Rinpoche would say, oh, somebody who irritates us is like a precious treasure because they're giving us this kind of opportunity to develop this kind of potential in us. Yeah, you could say that same way with ourselves or with our own kind of karmic patterns or internal experiences or whatever, or the emotion of anger or whatever, anxiety. There are kind of opportunities. And really, if we're able to deal with volatile energies like that, with that sense of kind of curiosity and kind of maybe humor and compassion and patience, like, I mean, it's so powerful. Yeah, I just finished a 4-day weekend retreat last weekend. It was really uncomfortable. And I also feel like I still, like, I'm a slow learner with the reactivity thing. Like, I'm still reacting to. I'm still wanting to feel. I still want to feel a different way. Like, I have this ideal of what my experience should be, which is a trap actually, it creates resistance, which is kind of one of the core roots of suffering. Really, it's this kind of resistance to what we're experiencing. And yeah, it's just kind of resisting. And it's like, oh, I'm just resisting. Like, may I just be, actually? And I think that's what one of the reasons finishing a meditation retreat, always feels at the end, even though it's a bit of a kind of turbulence, like, go through some time where, like, the end of the session will be kind of peaceful, wakeful, and I go into the next session and it's like turbulence again, and I'm feeling irritated or claustrophobic or whatever, my sitting posture or whatever, or pain. But that spending that much time not reacting, spending that much time being with our experience deeply, and not in those moments when we don't resist, you can kind of just open and really let go. Really kind of amazing. Yeah, because our world's, or at least our culture, it's comfort is success. I mean, it's pretty much just, we're just oriented to achieving comfort, as much comfort as possible. And that kind of mentality can be into our Dharma practice, because we can have kind of idealized pictures of where we're supposed to be at a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
And really, the truth is, just in that moment, can we just be with not resisting as much as we can.
I battle with expectations a lot.
Yeah.
And those expectations put pressure.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and those expectations are kind of a doing mind. There's kind of
Mm-hmm.
an active mind versus a being, kind of mode of being. Yeah. And it's sneaky. And it can just kind of creep in to even instructions that are saying don't let go of expectations.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I shouldn't be having expectations. Yeah, it's really I was meeting with so I'm actually, it's funny, I'm doing this course because I'm actually in a graduate program to become a therapist. So I took it very literally when I did this class before. But I was in a discussion with a practice client, and we were talking about perfectionism. And yeah, she mentioned, like, yeah, and I'm still not over it yet. And I actually didn't catch it until the end, because I can relate. And after our session, I was like, oh, she was being perfectionistic about getting over perfectionism.
Yeah.
Yeah. so that, yeah, it's interesting. So that's the clean pain, dirty pain kind of concept. So like, I'm having expectations. Oh, cool, interesting. Oh, there it is. There's a pattern of I'm expecting. What's this like? Kind of opening to it. There you go. It's expectation. Kind of holding it in our, maybe having some sense of acceptance, like, okay, expectations is there, kind of accepting it. And have, and then maybe bring in, if there's a sense of space and kind of peace and curiosity there present, and maybe bring in a little bit of compassion or love, like kind of loving presence towards it. Interesting. Yeah, because there can be it is kind of helpful to have this kind of negative, positive. These are negative emotions. These are positive emotions. But the negative emotions might be actually they might be trying to show us something that's there. So like, okay, it's true. Yeah, we don't want to have expectations because it's like a traffic jam into our practice. It's like I said, it kind of pressurizes the situation. Actually, it makes it tighter. Yeah, I feel like I have to squirm because I'm kind of creating this kind of pressure cooker thing. So it's true, but if we are experiencing the expectation, like and having that cure, like expectation is there again. Interesting, like feeling it out, like, what's that? It might actually shift into something that's underneath it. So the expectation might be some sort of shield or some sort of adaptive or coping mechanism that we've developed to kind of protect us from some sort of vulnerable space underneath. Like anger, sometimes if I really be with anger in that way, that kind of curious, open feeling, like feel into it like a story, like sometimes I'll shift into like sadness. Maybe I was like something hurt me and then I lashed out as like a kind of protective, or I'm a perfectionist because there's a vulnerability in me underneath that there's a tenderness there that's difficult to be with. So sometimes actually those kind of reactions can be actually really interesting kind of signposts to like, like what's actually really going on underneath that. And so they don't necessarily need to be discarded in this way. That's, it's an obstacle, like this is negative, this is bad, it's going to, or it's going to swallow me up or whatever. Like, interesting. And maybe that's a secondary reaction to something that's more core to what's going on. And that process can be really amazing.
Yeah. I know I've run into some defense mechanisms that I created when I was much, much younger, when I was a child. And even though all the conditions that caused them to be there are gone, they're still the defense mechanism I have now. And a lot of times, like you say, just letting it happen somehow or another, it just leads back to, that's why, it leads back to some kind of exposition of why, some knowledge as to the evolution of why it happened.
Yeah.
Which helps in controlling it rather than just looking at it as a monolithic reaction and not trying to get behind it or underneath it.
Yeah. There's a helpful way of looking at the defense mechanisms actually helped us get through something that we needed it when we were younger or at a certain time of our life. But then now it's like they're just occurring, but there's nothing to defend, they're just happening. Like Yeah. So we can see, yeah. So again, that kind of thing, not judging them, we're not like attacking the defense mechanisms themselves, like seeing them, oh, that was some sort of adaptation that I had to get through something. And then that not having that battle, not going to battle with the defense mechanisms, that can allow like this kind of some space to kind of go somewhere else with it. And then sometimes if we can let go, if it does open up to something else, maybe we can let go of that story too, and maybe go into the feeling of what, like the emotion of it. And then that's a way, in a sense, of resolving that karma. So when we have that kind of wound that created that defense mechanism, we kind of, if we can get through the mechanism, get to the wound, feel it, and give it its light of day. Basically, give it its space that it didn't. Like the defense mechanism never let us have that, give that whatever that was, that time of day, to allow that to kind of have its time in the sun and let it kind of feel and move through its own thing. That's another way of looking at kind of purifying, you can say purifying karma, or kind of releasing that kind of karmic tension or karmic weight that we created when we were younger. And those defense mechanisms are those kind of flags or signposts that actually can be a sign to help us go into something deeper that needs our attention, which again can be really precious, actually. Like we did in my training, my first semester of my program, we worked with these. I think it was Jack Kornfield has some teachings on working with these mechanisms. And yeah, I just went through this process. It was like it was just irritation. It wasn't like a really strong anger, but it was just kind of, I was irritated about something. And I was feeling it on the energy or emotional level. And then, yeah, that shifted into like this kind of sad, and then it's kind of moved through something else. And then actually I felt really like it just kind of went through this thing and then it was gone. It just felt really good actually afterwards. And it was just interesting, like, oh, usually I just get irritated about being irritated or I see irritation was a problem, but actually it led me into this kind of really amazing process. And it wasn't even about something, I don't even remember what the irritation, it was just really trivial, but it was just that kind of thing that kind of opened. Yeah.
And Justin, when you move through that, when you went through that process, at the end of it, then you leave it be. You don't try to examine it or go further. You just let it be.
Yeah, and kind of that's kind of one. Yeah, that can be one approach. Yeah, especially in the meditation tradition, that differs from maybe psychotherapy, where it may be a verbal kind of going through this bit of a story to kind of help kind of process it or unwind it. Yeah, but in kind of meditation, if you can really be present to it at the maybe felt level, and there is this kind of, it moves through and you feel like it, yeah, you just kind of let it kind of naturally kind of
Let it be.
release. Yeah.
Because the story is just that. It's the story of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes the story doesn't, like Section Lama Rinpoche said, we only feel the emotions really for maybe a second or so. Like, so even when we're angry, we're only really angry for like maybe a second, and then we just kind of blah 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 blah. You only got that genuine kind of feeling at first, and then the story kind of distracts, or kind of I don't know what the word is, but it kind of takes us away from the immediacy of the experience. So if we can really kind of unplug from the story, because usually when we're in the story, we're just identifying with the emotion, like we're just completely fused with it. if we can kind of break from the story and just kind of get in. For me, like the feeling of, usually there's a place in the body where it's feeling like, I'll have irritation usually in the chest, or maybe it got something going on in my neck, or like getting hot or whatever. If we can get into some more sensory level of it, because that actually helps us anchor in the present. So our sensory experience is immediate, non-conceptual. So that's why in meditation we use the breath or sensations in the body, because it's a non-conceptual kind of anchor into the present. So we can kind of tune into that, and maybe the energy of the emotion or whatever. Yeah, and then it just it'll move through. It just does. And the kind of like the Mahamudra or Dzogchen traditions, they have this kind of term like the emotions liberate themselves if we just get out of the way. Which again, not easy, but one of the, our sitting practice, as we progress, like it allows us to have a deeper presence with our experience, so a deeper relationship to it. So we can kind of take advantage of that deeper awareness to allow it to kind of move on. And I think of like if we're doing visualization practice for like purification, or if you've come across the Vajrasattva practices, it's simply, we're just flushing stuff out, and the stuff just kind of dissolves into the ground or whatever. It's like that, like our awareness, we're just naturally, our Buddha nature, or the nature of mind, actually is naturally whole and healthy. And if our cognitive games, if we can, stop interfering with it, it will naturally kind of settle and release. So it's just hard, because we're just kind of we're like individuals. Like we have to have our stuff that are, we don't know how to let go of this stuff, and we really need this stuff, and like, so we got our kind of separation things, but actually we're actually just in reality, we're this kind of wide open space, like the true self. And
sometimes you get so comfortable with your problems, your problems, you're comfortable with them, and you really don't want to lose them because you don't know what's on the other side. So
I know it's kind of the sad joke. Like we realize, we're actually just free, wide open, perfect beings or whatever the whole time. Like a lot of these Buddha nature analogies, like treasure buried under the ground of our home, or honey within a swarm of bees, or like a Buddha statue in this kind of pile of trash or rubbish or whatever. It's like they're all kind of analogies for how we feel. Like I feel like bees, and like, but actually, and that's all out here, but actually inside there's this kind of sweet honey. Or I feel I'm depleted or whatever, but actually there's this kind of treasure there that never changes. It's kind of, so it's there. We just have to kind of really kind of discover it little by little. Well, it's 5 o'clock actually. Maybe that's a nice way to end.
yeah, this was actually very, very, very nice.
It was. I completely.
Sometimes these smaller things are just so much more intimate.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Really nice.
And thank you, Justin. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both. Nice to spend time with you.
Okay.
Right. Well, yeah, maybe we'll just indicate any wholesome, positive droplets of wisdom, energy, whatever any potential we've created together. And kind of a spirit of sharing and offering that. May it lead to our own awakening. So we can be of great, lasting value to all living beings, without exception. And also bring the seeds of peace and awakening for others. Thanks so much.
You are.
Right.